Missing 411 is a series of books by former San Jose police officer David Paulides, in which he documents strange missing persons cases that adhere to specific criteria that he has been able to piece together over years of research and investigation. The criteria for missing 411 victims includes scent dogs and cadaver dogs are unable to pick up any scent trail, professional trackers cannot find any tracks to follow. In many cases, the missing exhibit opposite ends of the spectrum in regards to mental and/or physical acumen. The missing disappear in an area with a high content of granite. The missing disappear near a water source. The missing complain of feeling sick or feverish prior to disappearance. Whether found alive or deceased, the victim is missing clothing, most often shoes. The missing disappears at the point that they are out of sight of others if they are traveling with a group. And the weather changes for the worse at the time of the disappearance or just as a search and rescue mission is undertaken. Also of note, most of these cases fall within over 50 geographic clusters that have been mapped out by Mr. Paulides. Today, we are going to explore some of the most mind-boggling cases from the missing 411 phenomenon. On August the 3rd of 1973, Greg Llewellyn was seen by friends tending to his flock of sheep in Bench Creek near Heber City, Utah. However, when friends went to meet him the following day, they could find no sign of Greg. They noticed that his campsite was in a state of disarray, with the sheep herder's bedding in a mess, his dogs missing, and his flashlight over 200 yards from the campsite. They found his revolver, which he usually kept on his person, underneath his bedroll. They also found Greg's 2 horses tied to a tree, one of them hobbled. It was as if Greg had left the camp in quite a hurry. They found no sign of blood or tissue, which seemed to rule out an animal attack as the cause of his disappearance. The official investigation stated that Greg had left of his own accord, which seems an unlikely conclusion to come to, given that all of his worldly possessions had been left behind at the camp. 3 days after reporting Greg's disappearance, his 2 dogs returned to the camp. Greg was never seen again. On August 7th of 1931, farmhand William Pitzenbarger of Ohio disappeared while tending to his daily duties on the farm. He was last seen walking across one of the cornfields en route to doing some work. His absence wasn't noticed until later that evening when he failed to pick up the owner of the farm to take him back home. Authorities were then notified and search and rescue operations began. The search went on for several weeks before finding his body on August 31st. Searchers had pulled the cover from the abandoned well on the site and discovered the decomposing body of Mr. Pitzenbarger. Unfortunately, an autopsy was not performed, and the coroner wrote the death off as a drowning. It is unknown why Mr. Pitzenbarger would purposely enter an abandoned well that he was ostensibly aware of, or how he had pulled the cover back over the tub after dropping down into the well. On the morning of July 17, 1954, 3-year-old Gary Bailey disappeared while picking blueberries with his family at Spears Mountain in Knox, Maine. According to his parents, Gary was there with them 1 minute and gone the next. Based on local newspaper reports, the subsequent search party was over 500 people strong, including local police, fire, Boy Scouts, and volunteers. The search continued for around 24 hours from the time the boy was reported missing. 2 searchers working the opposite side of Spears Mountain the next day could hear crying and were able to follow the cries and find the boy. The fact that the 3-year-old was found on the opposite side of the mountain meant that the boy had climbed over the 1,400-foot mountain, mostly in the dark, all within a 24-hour period. The boy was found to be completely unharmed, save for some scratches on his face. On the 5th of April 2006 in Holland, Arkansas, it was discovered that Christopher Jones had disappeared from his home. Mr. Jones had just returned home a few days previous after being hospitalized for a bad case of gout. As a result, he was forced to use crutches just to be able to get around his small house. Friends came by on the morning of the 5th to see how Mr. Jones was getting along and were distressed to discover his front door unlocked and Mr. Jones apparently missing. His vehicle was still parked outside and there didn't seem to be anything missing or disturbed in the small home. Despite an intense search and rescue mission, there has never been any sign of Mr. Jones from that day forward. On September 5th, 1935, 5-year-old Jack Pike and his family were in St. Norbert, Manitoba, Canada, to pick blueberries and spend the day enjoying the outdoors. While out of sight, little Jack's parents heard him suddenly scream, a scream which his mother stated sounded as if it were choked off in the middle. His parents immediately ran in the direction of the scream, but were unable to find any sign of young Jack. The terrified parents contacted the authorities as soon as possible, and a huge search and rescue operation was undertaken. After 4 days of searching, and with thousands of searchers looking for the small boy, he was discovered unconscious under a bush on the opposite side of the river. Jack was still alive and taken straight away to the local hospital. Although he regained consciousness and spoke to his father at one point, little Jack Pike passed away. It is still unclear how the boy managed to cross the Red River, as it is a large and powerful waterway. The missing 411 phenomenon has captivated many people in recent years, as these strange disappearances, often under bizarre circumstances, seem to push the boundaries of known logical explanation. Cases involving small children who are found miles away across uninhabitable terrain, and in the unlikeliest of circumstances, tend to boggle the mind and stretch the fabric of reality. For more information on Missing 411, check out the official website at www.canammissing.com or look for the Can-Am Missing channel right here on YouTube. Thank you for joining me on this cursory exploration of the Missing 411 phenomenon, and please join me next time as we continue to explore conspiracies, the unexplained, high strangeness, and more.